The plate shattered against the wall with a wet smack. Red sauce splattering like arterial blood across the faded wallpaper of our family kitchen in suburban Ohio. The kind of place where American flags flap lazily from porches and pickup trucks idle in driveways. "You're a goddamn abomination. Kyle." Dad's voice cracked like thunder. His face twisted into something feral. Veins bulging in his neck as he hurled the half-eaten spaghetti bowl next, porcelain exploding into shards that skittered across the linoleum like fleeing roaches. I stood frozen at the breakfast table. The confession I'd choked out seconds ago, "I'm gay." Dad, hanging in the air like smoke from a house fire. My heart pounding so hard it drowned out Mom's gasp from the doorway. Blood trickled from a cut on my cheek where a noodle shard had nicked me. Warm and metallic, mixing with the sting of tears I refused to let fall. Dad lunged forward, his work-calloused hands balling into fists. The man who'd coached my little league teams and barbecued ribs every 4th of July now a stranger. His eyes wild with the kind of rage that simmers in small-town sermons and Fox News rants. "Get out," he snarled, breath reeking of Budweiser and denial. "Get the fuck out of my house before I make you regret ever being born." I stumbled backward, chair toppling with a clatter that echoed like a gunshot in the stuffy air of that Tuesday night in July 2023. The kitchen clock ticked mercilessly, 7:42 p.m., marking the exact moment my world cracked open like that spaghetti plate. Mom hovered in the threshold, her floral apron clutched in white-knuckled hands, eyes wide as saucers but her mouth sealed shut, the silence of complicity louder than any scream. She'd always been the peacemaker, smoothing over Dad's bar fights and my teenage rebellions with apple pie and family-first platitudes. But now, nothing. Just the faint hum of the AC unit outside, struggling against the Midwest humidity that clung to everything like regret. I bolted for the back door, grabbing my keys from the hook by the fridge, jingle of metal the only sound I made, heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out too. The screen door banged shut behind me, and I was in the yard, gravel crunching under my sneakers, the neighbor's sprinklers hissing a mocking lullaby. Dad's roar chased me, "Don't come back. You hear me? You're dead to us." I didn't look back. Couldn't. The streetlights flickered on as dusk bled into night, casting long shadows over the split-level houses of Willow Creek, where everyone knew your business but pretended they didn't. My truck, a '98 Ford Ranger Dad had helped me fix up for my high school graduation, roared to life in the driveway, headlights slicing through the gathering dark. I peeled out, tires squealing like a banshee, past the mailbox with our peeling O'Malley sticker, past the community center where I'd played basketball until sophomore year when the locker room whispers started. By the time I hit Route 23, tears were blurring the dashboard, snot bubbling in my nose. 22 years old, fresh out of community college with a half-assed associate's in graphic design. And this was my homecoming? I'd waited until after dinner to tell them, practicing in the mirror all week, imagining hugs or at least questions. Instead, flying pasta and a disownment. The city lights of Columbus beckoned like a hazy promise. 40 miles north, where I'd crashed with buddies during finals. But tonight, instinct pulled me west, toward the old family farm in rural Madison County, where Grandpa lived alone since Grandma passed 5 years back. He was the one constant in our fractured clan, 82. Wiry as barbed wire, with stories of Depression-era scrapes and a garage full of rusted tractors. Dad never visited anymore. Called him that old coot, but Grandpa had always slipped me 20s for gas money and asked about my sketches without judgment. The highway unspooled under my tires. Cornfields whispering in the wind. Fireflies winking like distant stars. My phone buzzed. Please come home. We can talk. Then Dad, don't you dare. I chucked it out the window at the next exit. A satisfying crunch against asphalt. Freeing myself from the tether. By 9 p.m., I was rattling down the gravel lane to Grandpa's place. Porch light glowing like a beacon. His ancient Ford F-150 sat under the carport. Fishing poles leaning against the siding. I killed the engine and sat there. Engine ticking cool. Staring at the stars pricking the black sky. What the hell was I supposed to say? Gramps? Dad just excommunicated me over my love life? The screen door creaked open before I could knock. Grandpa stood there in his threadbare Colts jersey and suspenders. Pipe clenched in his teeth. The scent of cherry tobacco wafting out. His face, leathered from decades under the sun. Eyes sharp as a hawk's, softened when he saw me. Boy, he drawled. Voice gravelly from years of unfiltered camels. You look like you wrestled a bobcat and lost. Get in here, for the skeeters carry you off. I collapsed onto the sagging couch in his living room. The one with the Afghan grandma crocheted. Dust motes dancing in the lamplight. He didn't pry at first. Just poured me a tumbler of bourbon, Maker's Mark. No ice, and settled into his recliner. Puffing away. The silence stretched. Comfortable as an old boot. Until I cracked. I'm gay. Grandpa. Told Dad tonight. He lost it. Threw spaghetti at me. Kicked me out. He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just nodded slow. Like he'd been waiting for this particular storm cloud to roll in. Spaghetti. Figures. Your pa always did have a flair for the dramatic. Threw a meatball at me once in '72 over the Vietnam draft. He chuckled. Low and rumbling. Then fixed me with those piercing blues. Life's too damn short for hidin' who you are. And your old man's anger? That's his poison. Not yours. Tears came then. Hot and unbidden. Soaking the bourbon glass. I spilled it all. The crushes on boys in high school gym class. The furtive hookups in college parking lots. The gnawing fear that I'd end up like Uncle Ray, who Dad said ran off to San Francisco and never looked back. Grandpa listened. Pipe forgotten. His gnarled hand on my knee. Listen here, he said when I trailed off. Voice steady as the Mississippi he'd fished as a kid. Family ain't blood. It's the folks who stick when the plate's flyin'. You're welcome here long as you need. The guest room's got your name on it since you were knee-high. That night, I slept in the featherbed upstairs. Window open to the cricket chorus. Dreams tangled with red sauce and Grandpa's pipe smoke. Morning brought coffee black as tar and flapjacks stacked high. The farm's quiet rhythm a bomb. But as I sketched idly at the kitchen table, swirling lines of a fractured heart, doubt crept in. Well, no job lined up. No place but this creaky farmhouse. And the ache for connection, real and raw, gnawed deeper than Dad's betrayal. Columbus called again that afternoon. A text from my old roommate Jax, heard from mutuals. You okay? Crash here? Jax was straight, but solid, tattooed mechanic with a laugh like thunder and zero tolerance for bullshit. I packed a duffel, hugged Grandpa fierce, promised to call. And Kyle, he added, pressing a wad of cash into my palm, hundreds. Find your people. The ones who'll throw you a lifeline. Not pasta. The drive east was clearer. Sun high and merciless. Radio blasting Springsteen, Thunder Road. The irony biting. Jax's apartment in the short North Arts District was a third-floor walk-up. Graffiti-tagged stairs smelling of weed and takeout. He yanked me into a bear hug at the door. No questions. Just beer's cold. Couch is yours. That first week blurred. Job apps for freelance design gigs. Nights at dive bars where the crowd skewed queer and unapologetic. The pulse of the city syncing with my own frantic heartbeat. It was there. At a hole in the wall called the Rusty Nail, sticky floors. Neon signs buzzing like fireflies, that I met Theo. He slid onto the stool next to me, ordering a whiskey neat with a voice like smoked velvet, dark curls framing a face that could have launched 1,000 sketches. 24. Barista by day. Aspiring musician by night, with olive skin and hazel eyes that crinkled when he smiled. You look like you could use a story, he said, clinking his glass to mine. Or maybe just someone to listen to yours. We talked till last call, my expulsion from Willow Creek, his own coming-out war story in a conservative Kentucky trailer park. Laughter came easy, then touches, his hand brushing mine under the bar. Electric. By dawn, we were tangled in his sheets 2 blocks away, bodies mapping unfamiliar territories with a hunger born of isolation. It wasn't love. Not yet, just 2 lost souls colliding in the neon haze of possibility. But damn, it felt like breathing for the first time. Weeks turned to months. Theo's loft becoming our nest. He gigged at open mics. Strumming folk tunes about heartbreak and highways, I landed gigs designing logos for local bands. My laptop humming on the fire escape. Grandpa called Sundays. His voice a lifeline. How's that city boy treating ya? Better than spaghetti? I hope. Dad's silence was a void. Mom's texts sporadic apologies laced with pray for us. I ignored them, building walls higher than the Scioto River bridges. But cracks formed. Theo's ex, a brooding guitarist named Riley, started dropping by for jam sessions, his eyes lingering too long, whispers turning to arguments behind closed doors. I caught them once, kissing in the alley after a show. Riley's hand fisted in Theo's shirt. It's nothing, Theo swore later, breath mints masking the guilt. Old habits. I wanted to believe him. Swallowed the doubt like bad coffee. Because in his arms, I glimpsed a future, road trips to the Smokies, sketches of his sleeping face, a life stitched from stolen moments. Fall leaves turned the Ohio River gold. And with them, the first real storm. Dad showed up unannounced at Jack's. Wait. At the loft, pounding on the door like Judgment Day. I'd given Mom the address in a weak moment. He looked smaller in the fluorescent hall. Flannel rumpled, eyes bloodshot. Kyle, he croaked. No rage this time. Just hollow. Your ma's sick. Cancer. Come home. The word hit like a freight train. Apple pie. School lunches. The woman who'd bandaged my knees and whispered I love you even when Dad fumed. I froze. Theo hovering behind me, hand on my shoulder. Please, Dad added, voice breaking. Family sticks together. Irony twisted like a knife. But blood pulled. Inexorable. I went. Packed a bag. Kissed Theo goodbye with promises of calls. The drive south was a funeral procession. Radio off. Ghosts riding shotgun. Grandpa met me at the farm first. Arms open. Go see her. But remember, you're whole. No matter what. Mom lay in the hospital bed at Riverside Methodist. Pale as the sheets. Chemo dripping like venom. She squeezed my hand. Tears carving tracks. I'm so sorry, baby. For everything. Dad lurked in the corner. Silent sentinel. We talked in fragments, childhoods, regrets. The unspoken I love you hanging heavy. He didn't mention the spaghetti, but his eyes did. Pleading forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. Back in Columbus, Theo was waiting, but the air had shifted. Riley's shadow loomed larger. Gigs turning to late nights. One December eve, snow dusting the windows. I came home to find them on the couch, Riley's lips on Theo's neck. Hands wander. Kyle, Theo started, pulling away. But the betrayal bloomed hot and final. You're done, I whispered. Voice steel. Grab my sketchbook. Out into the blizzard. Streets muffled. World white and unforgiving. Were it Grandpa's? Jax's? The ache was a chasm, love soured. Family fractured. Self-worth a casualty. Wandering led me to the riverbank. Ice fringed. Wind whipping. I sat on a bench. Sketching furiously. A man unraveling. Threads of heart and home fraying. Footsteps crunched. Theo? Coatless. Eyes red. I fucked up. But I love you. Stay. Temptation clawed. But no. Love isn't scraps, I said. Standing. It's the whole damn plate. I stepped back. Walked away. Snow erasing my prints. Dawn found me at Grandpa's door again. Pounding till he answered. Robe askew. Back so soon. No judgment. Just coffee and quiet. Over breakfast, he lit his pipe. Stared out at the frosted fields. Got something to show you. Cut. Been keepin' it buried too long. He led me to the attic. Dust-choked stairs creaking. In a trunk under cobwebs, letters. Yellowed photos. A faded pride flag. Your grandma knew, he said. But it was me. I was like you. Loved a man once. Back in the war. Tommy. We flew B-17s over Europe. Shared foxholes and foxhole secrets. After D-Day, he didn't come back. Buried it all when I came home, married your grandma, built this life. But it ate me. Still does. I sifted the mementos, Grandpa young, arms slung around a grinning soldier, eyes soft with what? A letter from Tommy, miss you more than the sky. Grandpack wiped his face. Told your pa once. After a bottle too many. He laughed it off. Called it war nerves. Never spoke of it again. But seeing you fight this? Woke the ghost. Can't let history repeat. He straightened. Fire in his eyes. We're going to him. Your dad. Today. I protested. Too raw. Too soon. But Grandpa was a force. World War II steel unbent. We piled into his truck. Heater blasting. Silence heavy as the snowdrifts. The hospital loomed. Sterile and accusatory. Mom slept. Dad in the waiting room. Nursing vending machine coffee. Grandpa didn't knock. just strode in, me trailing. Sit, he commanded, dropping into the plastic chair opposite Dad. Now, Dad bristled. What the hell? This ain't. Shut it. Grandpa's voice cut like shrapnel. You threw spaghetti at your boy for lovin' who he loves. Same as you turned on me 50 years back when I confessed my truth. Tommy, remember? The name you mocked. Dad paled. Cup crumpling. That was. You were drunk. Delirious. Wasn't. Grandpa pulled the letter from his pocket, slid it across. Read it. Then look your son in the eye and tell him he's abomination again. The room shrank. Dad's hands shook as he unfolded the paper, eyes scanning, face crumpling like wet newsprint. Silence stretched, broken only by the beep of monitors down the hall. Then, guttural, from the man who'd raised me on stoicism and straight lines. I'm sorry. Tentative. And I let him. Our hug awkward. Desperate. Didn't know. Feared you'd end up. Broken like I thought Pop was. Grandpa watched. Pipe unlit. A quiet victory. Mom stirred later, witnessing the mending, tears. Confessions. A family pieced from shards. Not perfect, but human. Spring thawed Ohio's bones by March 2024. The Scioto swelling with meltwater, carrying away winter's grudges like so much driftwood. Mom's chemo held the line, remission whispers in doctor's notes, and the O'Malley house in Willow Creek felt less like a minefield, more like neutral ground. Dad and I navigated it cautious, like deer in hunting season, shared silences over dinner, a tentative basketball game in the driveway where he passed without preaching. Proud of you, son, he muttered once. Ball thumping pavement, eyes averted. It wasn't absolution, but it was start. Grandpa's revelation had cracked the dam. He moved into town weekends, commandeering the guest room with his war stories retold through a queer lens, Tommy's laugh echoing in foxholes. Stolen kisses under bomber wings. Love's the real battlefield, he'd say, winking over cribbage hands. It humanized him, turned the stoic farmer into Jack. Flesh and longing. For me, it was permission to grieve what was lost, to rebuild without apology. Columbus pulled. Theo's ghost lingered in every coffee shop strum, every shadowed alley kiss. I'd blocked his number, but dreams betrayed me, his hazel eyes pleading, body warm against mine. Jack's dragged me out. Wingman supreme, plenty of fish. Dude. Or dudes. Whatever floats your rainbow boat. Bars like Union became rituals, neon pulses, bass thumping through veins, hands brushing in crowds that felt like home. Enter Elias. Spotted him at a gallery opening in the warehouse district, May's humid breath fogging the windows. He was leaning into an abstract swirl of blues and grays, my design, ironically, for a local queer youth nonprofit. 25. Lithe as a reed, with ink-black hair shaved on the sides, gold hoops glinting in both ears, and a smile that hooked like a well-timed lyric. This piece, he said, turning to me with eyes like polished amber, it screams, beautiful ache. You the artist? Flustered. I admitted it, Kyle O'Malley. Freelance scribbler. He was a poet. Elias Rivera. Puerto Rican roots tangled with Midwest grit. Fresh from an MFA at OSU. We wandered the exhibits. Words weaving, his verses on diaspora and desire. My sketches of fractured families. Betrayal's a thief, he murmured over cheap wine. Fingers grazing my wrist. Steals your outline. Leaves you to redraw. By midnight, we were on his balcony overlooking Franklinton. City lights sprawling like spilled stars. He read me a poem, Ode to the Boy Who Left, voice husky. Pauses pregnant. I sketched him then. Quick lines on a napkin, jaw sharp as verse. Lips curved in quiet storm. When he leaned in, kiss tentative then torrent. It was revelation, no ghosts. Just now. Raw and reciprocal. Summer bloomed reckless. Elias and I became a rhythm, mornings tangled in his sheets scented with sage and sweat. Afternoons at poetry slams where he'd spit fire and I'd cheer from the haze. He introduced me to his crew, queer collective of artists, activists, the kind who marched pride with signs reading love wins. Bitches. Picnics in Goodale Park. Joints passed under oaks. Debates on Audre Lorde versus Baldwin that dissolved into laughter and limbs. Grandpa approved. Gruffly, he got that fire in his belly? Don't settle for lukewarm. That tentative nods over phone calls. A forced, sounds nice, when I mentioned Elias's upcoming chapbook reading. Mom sent care packages, jerky? Not judgment, slipped in with notes, bring him for pie sometime. Progress. Inchmill. But shadows lengthened. Elias's ex. Marco, a sculptor with a god complex and a coke habit, started orbiting. Collaborations, Elias called the late-night studio visits. Coming home wired. Eyes distant. I'd wake to empty bed. His side cold. Poems scrawled on scraps, your touch a chisel. Carving me hollow. I confronted once. Over takeout falafel. Voice steady. This feels like Theo 2.0. Am I paranoid? Or? He pulled me close. Breath minty regret. Marco's chaos. You're my anchor. Kisses sealed it. But doubt festered. A low hum under our symphony. High summer hit like a fever. Mom's scans cleared, full remission. Duck said. Champagne toasts in the hospital cafeteria. Dad hugged me then. Fist. Whispering. Couldn't have without you here. We drove to the farm for a barbecue. Grandpa manning the grill. Elias in tow, nervous. Charming the old man with tales of Nuyorican grandmas and bodega saints. It was perfect. Almost, smoke curling skyward. Ribs sticky sweet. Laughter bubbling like the creek behind the barn. Elias and I stole away to the hayloft. Dust motes golden. Bodies urgent against bales. This, he gasped. Forehead to mine. This is us. Real. I believed him. Lost in the arch of his back. The poetry of his moans. Fall whispered warnings, leaves turning. Chill seeping. Elias's reading at Scully's drew crowds. Marco front row. Eyes predatory. Post-show drinks turned toxic. Marco cornering Elias in the green room. Words slurring into shouts. I pulled him away. But the seed was planted. Elias's flinch at Marco's touch. Like we'd blurred. November brought the hammer. I came home early from a client pitch. Key scraping lock. To find them in our bed, Elias astride Marco. Rhythm frantic. Moans a betrayal sharper than spaghetti shards. Froze in the doorway. world tilting. Kyle? Elias scrambled. Sheet clutched like shame. Marco smirked. Unrepentant, he came to me. Always does. I didn't scream. Didn't throw. Just nodded. Grab my bag, sketches? The napkin portrait now crumpled. Poetry's full of thieves, I echoed his words. Door clicking shut soft as a sonnet's end. Streets slick with rain. I drove aimless. Wipers slashing tears. Grandpa's farm again. Porch light eternal. He answered in slippers. Took one look, another one? Boy. You pick him like I pick burrs. Bourbon poured. Story spilled. He listened. Then, heart breaks the forge. Hammers you flat. But you rise stronger. Remember Tommy? Lost him. Lost myself for years. But I built this. Gesture encompassing the creaky house. The land scarred and resilient. Morning brought clarity. I texted Jax, need space. Couch crash? He replied instant, always. Elias's apologies flooded, voicemails poetic pleas. Text dissolving into I love you. Forgive. Deleted unread. Pride demanded distance. Jax's place was chaos comfort, engine part strewn. Fridge stocked with IPAs. Fuck poets, he declared. Cracking beers on the fire escape. Get you a mechanic. We fix what's broke. Laughter cracked the ice. First reel since the splinter. Holiday lights twinkled early. A mocking merriment. Mom called. Voice bright. Christmas here? Dad's making lasagna. No throwing. Promise. Tempted. But wounds wept fresh. Grandpa mediated. Come to the farm. We'll do our own thing. Invite that Jax fella. Sounds like he could use a home-cooked meal. We did. Jax arrived with a six-pack in wariness, melting under Grandpa's tales of moonshine runs. I sketched by the fire, portraits of them, Jax's tattooed grin, Grandpa's pipe puff profile. Elias faded to sepia. A chapter closed. New Year dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered, rebuild. Boulder. I landed a steady gig, design lead for the nonprofit. Queer youth scenes pulsing with color. Elias's chapbook dropped. I bought it anonymous. Read one poem aloud to the mirror. I carved you from my ribs, but kept the blade. Burned it in the sink. Ash swirling down. Spring equinox. Cherry blossoms dusting the short north. Brought collision. Gallery show, my exhibit. Shards and salvage. Crowds milled. Wine flowed. Elias appeared. Got eyes haunted. Your work. It's broken beautiful. He reached. I stepped back. I corrected. Now it's mine. Marco lurked outside later, blocking the alley. Heard you dumped him. Smart. Poets need muses, not anchors. Fist clenched, Jax materialized. Looming thought. Asshole. Or I make you. Marco slumped. But the threat lingered. Text to Elias. Anonymous shade on his Insta. Climax brewed in June. Pride Month fever. The parade route throbbed, drag queens on floats. Rainbows rioting. I marched with the collective. Elias's crew waving distant. Grandpa, bless him, showed 83 now. Rainbow pin on his Colt's cap. Arm linked with mine. For Tommy, he said. Voice lost in cheers. Dad and Mom trailed. Awkward but present. Signs reading love my son. Theo crossed paths then, cleaner. Humbled. With a new guy on his arm. Nod exchanged. No words, healing's quiet grace. But Elias? Puffs. He cornered me post-march. Confetti-strewn street. Marco's shadow at his elbow. One chance. Cut. I choose you. Marco laughed. Fool. Lie. You chose me last night. Elias paled. Denial crumbling. Truth, addiction's grip. Marco's supply the chain. I can't, Elias whispered. Tears carving. But God, I want to. Heart-wrenched. But boundaries held. Choose yourself first, I said. So. Walked away. Grandpa's hand steadying. That night. Bonfire at the farm, pride embers. Jack stayed. Sparks flying unspoken. Grandpa raised a toast to the unthinkable, livin' true. Puffed. Source. Possibility. July's heat wave baked Columbus into submission. Asphalt shimmering like a bad mirage. The Scioto sluggish under humidity's weight. My exhibit hung in quiet acclaim. Reviews in Columbus Alive calling it a raw elegy to queer resilience, but the real heat was internal. A simmer of what-ifs post-Elias. Jax and I danced the edge, movie nights bleeding into dawn. His hand lingering on my thigh during Top Gun reruns. Laughs turning loaded. Your trouble, I tease. Pulse quickening. Tigrin. Grease-streaked, best kind. Grandpa's health flagged subtle, cough lingering. Steps slower, but his spirit roared. He started a scrapbook, my sketches clipped. Elias's poem ashes metaphorically dusted. Tommy's letters transcribed. Legacy, he grunted. Gluing photos. Ain't just survivin'. Did leavin' tracks. The helped. Fingers ink-stained. Unearthing more. A hidden journal from 45. Entries coded in farm slang. T's smile lit the dawn run. Lost him to the flak. Heart's a crater. Dad absorbed it piecemeal. Visits to the farm thawing. One August Eve. Over checkers? He asked, Pop ever say? About Tommy? Details? Grandpa obliged. Sparse, foxhole confessions? A Paris leave pass stolen for a night in Montmartre. Dad listened. Face unreadable. Then, wish I'd known. Might've. Understood you sooner. Kyle. Apologies echo. Layered. Mom rallied. Hosting a backyard luau, tiki torches. Pineapple upside-down cake, to celebrate her 6-month clear. Elias RSVP'd no. But sent flowers, lilies. Sent cloying. Marco's influence waned, whispers of rehab. A fresh start. I wished him well. Distant, forgiveness not forgetting. Jax made moves overt. Post-luau. Truck bed under stars. His kiss rough-edged. Tasting of rum and reliability. No poets here, he murmured. Calluses mapping my skin. Just me. Steady. We tumbled into it, lovers. Unhurried. His shop radio crooning Willie Nelson as we christened the workbench. Mornings after, coffee black. His arm heavy across me. World solid. Fall semester loomed. I enrolled part-time at CD for a design bachelor's. Sketches evolving. Portraits of Jack's wrenching engines. Grandpa tilling soil. A self in mirror, eyes clearer. Jaw set. Pride's afterglow faded to routine. But community anchored, Volunteer shifts at the youth center. Mentoring kids with coming-out jitters. A 16-year-old named Finn, freckled, terrified, mirrored my younger self. My dad's like yours, he confided over crayons. Bible verses at breakfast. I shared the spaghetti tale. Grandpa's grace. It gets better. You get better. October's chill brought ghosts. Theo's band gig at the Nail, flyer unavoidable. Jack's in tow. Armor. Theo spotted me mid-set. Falter in his chord. Eyes locking during a ballad about redemption. Post-show. He approached. New guy absent. Heard about Elias. Sucks. Probing. Jack's tensed. I waved it off. Water under. You. Clean. Sober. Real this time. Sincerity rang. But past scar itched. We parted civil, handshake. No heat. Jack's later. Proud of you. Not punching his lights. Laughter sealed it. Home to his loft. Bodies reaffirming. Thanksgiving tested. Dad's invite. Full table. No sermons. Elias crashed the periphery. Marco out. Solo, showing at mom's pottery class. Awkward orbits. Passing mashed potatoes. Eyes skimming. He cornered me in the garage. Smoke from his clove cigarette curling. Miss your sketches. In lines. Vulnerable. Miss the you before, I admitted. But Jax. He's home. Sad smile. Deserve that. Grandpa pulled me aside post-meal. Pipe lit against the cold. Boys still sear chin. Like I did after Tommy. Give him grace, from afar. Wisdom's weight. Winter gripped hard. Snowplows groaning pre-dawn. Mom's follow-up glowed green, celebrations subdued. Family knitting tighter. Jack's proposed cohabitation. His place. Expanded garage for my studio. Build something, he said. Ring of keys jangling. Accepted. Heart full, moving day a blur of boxes. His tattooed arms hauling. But January's bite hid barbs. Finn vanished from the center, texts unanswered. Home a black hole. Panic clawed, I drove to his suburb, pounding on a ranch-style door. His dad answered. Face granite, ain't here. And don't come back. You freak influencer. Hearts sank, echoes of spaghetti. Called Grandpa. Voice cracking, like us. All over. He mobilized, we'll find him. Surprisingly. Tagged, truck convoy to the station. Questions filed. Hours later. Finn. Safe in a shelter. Bruises blooming from a belt. Told him about the parade, he whispered. Hugging fierce. Lost it. We rallied, counseling lined. Dad facing charges. Finn crashing at Jax's till stable. The rescue bonded unbreakable. The post statement, never again. Cut. Not on my watch. Unspoken vows. Spring 2025 bloomed vengeful. Elias resurfaced, chapbook tour. Columbus stop. Invite to the reading, your lines in my verses. Come? Curiosity 1. Jax encouraged, closure's a gift. Venue packed. Air thick with incense and anticipation. Elias on stage. Transformed, hair grown, eyes clear. Poems pouring, cycles of break. A blade dulled to butter knife. Kyun. He dedicated a piece to me, for the anchor I lost. Who taught me to swim. Applause thundered, backstage. Hug lingering. Rehab worked. Marco's history. Writing's my fix now. Pride swelled. Distant. Happy for you, I said. Jax's hand in mine visible. Right fierce. Graduation neared, cap and gown. Thesis show, forged in fire, installations of shattered plates reassembled. Lights casting rainbows through cracks. Grandpop in my stole. Voice husky, Tommy'd be proud. Dad snapped photos. Mom beaming. Jax hooped loudest. But fate twisted June's tail. Grandpa's cough turned sinister, doc's verdict, stage 3 lung. Irony's lash on the ex-smoker. Damn it, he rasped. Hospital bed swallowing him. Ain't goin' gentle. Chemo scheduled. Farm quiet without his rumble. Family circled. Dad driving treatments. Mom stocking broth. Me sketching his portrait, eyes defiant. Pipe eternal. Elias sent a care package, poems bound leather. For Jack, the unthinkable hero. Grandpa chuckled, fancy words for an old farmer. Jax and I deepened, road trip to the Smokies. His truck rumbling ridges. Tents pitched under pines. Night star pricked. Bodies synced, forever's a gear I can shift, he joked. Ring glinting, simple band. Proposed mid-hike. Breathless. July 4th. Farm fireworks, Grandpa watching frail from porch. Oxygen tube snaking. Dad lit the finale. Colors blooming, red for rage past. Blue for steady seas. Love you. Pop, Dad said. Hand on shoulder. Reciprocated. Gruff. Crisis peaked August. Grandpa coded, pneumonia complication. ICU beeps frantic. We gathered. Vigil raw. Mom praying rosaries. Dad pacing. Elias arriving unbidden. Poem in hand for bedside reading. Heard through the grapevine, he explained. Words flowed. In furrows deep. Roots entwine. Grandpa stirred. Eyes cracking. Keep writin'. Good bones. Rally. Discharge. Hospice at home. Farm transformed. Bed in living room. Windows wide to fields. Stories unspooled final. Tommy's last letter read aloud. Tears communal. Unthinkable, Grandpa murmured to me. Handclasped. Was lovin' myself enough to tell you. Eclipse September, sky bruised. World hushed. He slipped then. Peaceful, breath easing out like pipe smoke on wind. Funeral simple, military honors. Pride flag draped casket. My eulogy, Jack O'Malley taught us love's the real war one. Grief's tide pulled, but buoyed by bonds. Elias's next book dedicated duel, to Kyle and Jack, shards to stars. Jax and I wed quiet, courthouse. Rings exchanged over burgers. Family toasting. Mom's health held, Dad volunteered at the center. Mentoring dads like Finn's. Finn thrived, art scholarship. Hugs fierce. October's leaves fell forgiving. I sketched horizon, Kyle. Whole, gray eyes steady. Heart mended. Spaghetti shards? Glitter now. Mosaic strong. November 2025 chilled crisp. Ohio's fields stripped to stubble. Wind whispering elegies through Grandpa's empty barn. His absence echoed, a chair unmoved. Pipe rack dusty, but legacy lingered. etched in us like frost on glass. The farm sold piecemeal. Proceeds split, trust for Finn's college. Seed money from my studio expansion. Dad kept the tractor, rumbling it Sundays like communion. Mom tending the herb garden Grandpa plotted. Jax and I settled deeper, his garage loft our fortress. Walls papered in my murals, abstract hearts cracked gold. Kintsugi style. Mornings, his coffee brewing. My easel splashed dawn. Husband, he tested 1 a.m. Postload. Voice gravel sweet. Grinned, try it on. Rings glinted twin. Vows casual as overalls. Elias's orbit-stabilized friend, coffee catch-ups? No sparks, just mutual mending. His latest reading? November's Eve at a Franklinton warehouse. Drew queer faithful. Poem for Grandpa stole breaths. The old soldier's pipe smoke curled questions into the night sky. Answers in the ash. Backstage scotch. He changed me too. Through you. Toast, to chains broken. Thanksgiving reconvened Willow Creek. Table groaning turkey. Finn seated kin. His dad absent but a men's brewing court mandated. Dad carved. Knife steady, to Jack. And us. Laughter flowed freer. Story swapped. Grandpa's moonshine heist. My spaghetti saga retold comic, sauce as war paint. Mom's 1 year clear rang bells, party at the center. Rainbow balloons bobbing. She danced with Finn to ABBA. Dancing queen, cheeks flushed. Dad pulled me aside. Eyes wet, you saved us. By being. A bone crush. Forgiveness full circle. Winter solstice gig, Jax's band, Garage Rockers. Him on bass, headlining a holiday bash. I DJ'd intermissions. Scratching queer anthems, born this way. Same low. Elias guested verse, crowd roared. Backstage. Jax kissed Sweatslick, my artist. My everything. New Year plotted bold, cross-country road trip. Tracing Grandpa's war ghosts, DC monuments. Then west to Queer Havens. Planning sketches piled, Route 66 rainbows. Desert dawns. But February frosted fraught. Marco resurfaced, Elias's reading crashed. Eyes feral. Words slurring venom, stole my muse. Faggots. Security hauled, cops called. Elias shattered after, thought I was free. We rallied, group therapy circle. My hand in his. Jax's steady presence. Chains rust, I echoed Grandpa. You forged new. Spring equaled rebirth. My bachelor's capped, thesis defense, mosaic lives, interactive install of family shards. Visitors reassembling narratives. Dean's nod, graduated with honors. Changed the program. Jax hooped. Lifting me spin, Dad teared. Mom snapping pics. Finn's art show overlapped, prodigy blooming. Peace inspired mine, spaghetti symphony. Pasta plate chaos harmonized. Sold out, proceeds to Trevor project. His hug, you first. Cut. Trailblazer. Summer simmered promise. Mom and Dad road tripped the farm's old routes. Scattering Grandpa's ashes in the creek, ceremony pagan poetic. Elias reciting. Jax strumming guitar soft. Pride 2026 amplified. Float sponsored by the center. Glimpsing. Jax driving bedecked truck. Dad marched beside. Sign proud dad of a gay son. Mom waving pom-poms. Theo nodded from sidelines. Life parallel. Peaceful. Elias published Magnum, Unthinkable Inc. Forward mine. Jack taught us love's not hidden, it's hurled. Message. Tour launched California. Hugs goodbye, right home. Fall harvested full. Jax's shop thrived. Custom queer vans. Rainbows airbrushed. Our home, nursery sketch tentative. Adoption whispers. Little O'Malley Rivera? No sex. Plans unfolding. November 12th. Anniversary of the throw, date circled red. We gathered farm remnants, final barbecue. Spaghetti served ceremonial. No plates airborne. Dad raised fork. To redemption. To Kyle. Tears saline sweet. Night fell star-strewn. Jax and I porch sit. His head on my shoulder. Fireflies winking. From pasta to this, he murmured. Unthinkable. I sketched the dark. Lines bold. Unbroken. Grandpa's voice ghosted wind. Life's too short for hiding. No more hiding. Just living through. Right? Redeemed. In the end, love wasn't the absence of shatter, it was the glue. The golden cracks. The family forged from flying sauce and unspoken truths. American as apple pie with a rainbow twist. Messy. Resilient. Us.